During the same time, educational video programs were aired on our education channel. Radio lessons began to broadcast on FBC Radio Fiji 1 and Radio Fiji 2 on weekdays. On Monday, 7th June, the Ministry launched its Learning Hub specifically designed for students around the country in all supplementary learning materials. Let me reiterate, supplementary learning materials such as radio lessons, video lessons, worksheets, as well as Bula Kids videos. Those accessing the Learning Hub via the Telecom Fiji and Digital Fiji network will not incur any internet charges. However, those wishing to access this platform through the Vodafone network will incur normal internet cost. Since 5th July, schools have been developing learning packages for the students in the form of weekly home study packages. This is in print form. This is prepared by teachers based on their classroom coverage, because teachers know what has been covered in term 1 prior to schools being closed, and a mode of delivery to continue in the future. Mr. Speaker said for those teachers who do not have access to devices, data, and resources, we allow them to access school-based resources to continue delivery of lessons for the students. We have kept our schools open to cater for this delivery of materials. The Ministry has fully released the free education grant, and schools are authorized to use the funds to facilitate these materials. Our schools have also been making other printed worksheets and weekly home study packages that is collected by parents upon discussion with the heads of schools from their nearest school. This is for those students who may not have access to reliable internet services or electronic devices, as mentioned in the question. Mr. Speaker said this is free of course, and no child or parent has to pay for any of these printed materials from schools. To take off the academic pressure from our students, we have removed all school-based projects from years 8, 12, and 13. All boarding school, Mr. Speaker says, students have returned home and are accessing resources the same way as the rest of the students. Teachers from these boarding schools are sending them the learning resources either electronically or hard copies are being provided. Our teachers have formed groups where they're working with teachers in these schools to provide learning materials to their boarding students. Parents and guardians are then able to collect printed materials if they are not able to access it electronically. Mr. Speaker, when we are faced with extreme challenges, we tend to respond in innovative ways. In our regular meetings with our heads of schools, they have shared that teachers are making every effort to ensure that materials do reach their students. Teachers are using the assistance of Turani Koros. In the Yasawas, 8 out of 13 school heads and many teachers are stranded on the mainland. Each week, they prepare and print the learning material and send them to the islands in fiber boats. The school community and village headmen distribute these to the students, and families help students complete their work and return this by the same boat to the head of schools. And we hope this will continue for as long as schools are closed. The delivery of resources to students in remote areas also uses this form where we use village headmen, Turani Koros, and community leaders. Mr. Speaker said 16% of our primary schools and 52% of our secondary schools are engaged in some form of online learning. These include Moodle, Zoom, websites, Google Drive, Google Classroom, emails, and other social media platforms. We have also noted that a number of schools use other learning platforms as their own initiatives, such as the Viber groups and WhatsApp groups. To help teachers and students effectively deliver and learn through online platforms, the Ministry now has set up the latest version of the learning management system Moodle, which is assisting many schools. This is a free software and does not need regular financial commitment, and our schools using this are responding very well, and many other schools are eager to try this. Mr. Speaker, very soon our year 13 students will receive their monthly data bundle of $20, which was announced in the recent budget. And we hope that this will help them engage in learning through Zoom classes with their teachers. They will be able to communicate with the teachers through email and other communication platforms, and of course access the Moodle online if the schools are using that. The initiative by the Fijian government will further ensure that our year 13 students get equitable access to learning resources despite the socio-economic situation, and we hope our students will not be left behind. And we hope that they make good use of the data bundles that will be available to them in a couple of weeks. Children who do not have access to online platforms, who do not have access to devices, will continue to receive the same level of support and activities that children are accessing online. Our teachers, parents, and communities will continue to assist in every possible way in terms of providing these children with printed worksheets, which is returned when they collect the next week's worksheet. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 has had unprecedented impacts on all major sectors of the economies across the globe. Canberra in Australia went on a week lockdown last Thursday, and I'm advised that they are going to go on a further 2 weeks lockdown. Many countries have readily available internet and immediately resort to online education delivery. For us, we have out of the 1,000 primary schools, we have only 85 schools that are not connected. And out of the 175 secondary schools, we have only 3 secondary schools that are not connected. But Mr. Speaker said this is not about schools being connected. This is about communities being connected. This is about devices being available in the homes of the children. And in the morning, we had the Attorney General talk about this digital divide and the plans forward. Honorable Wanganika, you spoke about data, I think, if I heard you correctly, for university students. Our 3 major universities switched into online mode of education delivery, and these universities have allowed have made arrangements with Vodafone and Digicel to allow their students to access learning resources hosted on the university's local service. This means that students' data will not be consumed when accessing the learning resources through the university's website. Mr. Speaker, we understand these are difficult times, and we understand that the teaching and learning has been greatly disturbed, and we hope that we hope that we resume and open up our classes to face-to-face mode, because we strongly believe that teaching and learning actually for us here is favored in a traditional form of learning, that is, students want to see their teachers in the classroom. What we are doing now is supplementary learning as well as teaching of a few new topics. But when schools do resume, the ministry has put in plans to ensure that these children don't miss out. It is also a fact, Mr. Speaker, that when schools are closed for a longer period of time, we will see that a small percentage or a greater percentage of children may not want to return to school. So we need to think about that as well. So what we are doing now is using DFET, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade facility program, to run a lot of counseling training programs for our child protection officers, refresher courses for our trained counselors. When these students do come back to school, our teachers, our facilities are also prepared to welcome them back. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say that parents play a very important role. Pillar 4 of our National Curriculum Framework talks about parental engagement. I plead to all the parents and guardians to look after the children while they're at home, and please engage them in some form of learning. We continue to run competitions for our children so that the spark to going back to school it remains there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Mitieli Murnoda, you have the floor. Supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, sir. It's very encouraging to hear about connectivity. It's been announced in the morning to Mua, Waileo and all that. But I'm concerned, Honourable Speaker, sir, of the reception, availability and accessibility, in particular to affordability, owning those gadgets in order to connect into those things. It might be easier in the urban areas, but in the rural areas. My question is, how can you help those to have the accessibility, particularly in the rural areas, and the affordability to connect into? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. You have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I did mention the issue. The issue here is about connectivity, accessibility, and affordability in communities right now. Our schools, to some extent, are equipped with that, but unfortunately, we are talking about households and communities. And if you heard correctly, right now, the Honourable Attorney General spoke about that. At the moment, we are going to assist our Year 13 students. We are keeping our schools open so that facilities could be used by the community members and parents. And of course, our teachers are there to support.
I give the floor to the
I'm sorry,
Honorable
Mr. Speaker.
Michael
Mr.
Lever. You have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. Just supplementary questions to the Honorable Minister. I thank the Minister for the many initiatives being established, especially in the Ministry of Education. But in terms of teachers accessing students in rural areas, is there any form of financial assistance for the teachers available from the ministry when they travel to these schools? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. In response to the question, first thing I'd like to note that in this year's budget, the government did not touch on the teachers' salaries and acting allowance, etc. And when teachers do travel to areas away from their schools to deliver worksheets, etc., yes, we have under the free education grant where the head of school can accommodate for transport. And like I said, all the printing material is free of charge, and heads of schools and teachers can claim for transportation from the free education grant. And this free education grant, we have not withheld any amount. We've given the full percentage to the schools as per this term.
Honorable members, the 8th oral question for today, the honorable members, I want to advise that the Honorable Rita Bhatnagar has withdrawn her question as it's already been addressed to a ministerial statement by the Honorable Attorney General earlier today. We move on to written questions. We have one written question for today, and I give the floor to the Honorable Inosi Kurendrani.